The following episode might contain content that you might not be comfortable listening to. This might range from swearing to references to self-harm and substance abuse. Please proceed with caution and don't hesitate to reach out for help if you need it. Are you ready to take the steps that you need to take to be the person you want to be in the future? Hello, my name is Hazy, Who Killed Hazy, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Only Rainy Days podcast. This episode will be episode number 22, which, given my habit of releasing episodes about every other week, that's been about the habit since I've actually started this up and been trying to make it a long-standing, I can't even think of the word, but I guess long-standing project, something I want to really pursue and to continue to do as time goes on. I'm kind of happy that I'm happy I made it this far. I want to keep going. Episode 22 means that we're 6 episodes away, or what is that? About 3 months from. That should be about half a year. No, that should be about a year. Yeah, 3 months from now should be about a year of going on with this type of shit. I'm happy about it. This is something that I really want to do and just keep doing and try to progress as much as I can. But nonetheless, from a quick little, I guess what I want to call a pat on the back for myself. Today is tonight, whenever you hear it. For me, it's definitely tonight. It's about 4:10 a.m. when I'm actually recording this, which I guess would technically make it morning. I don't know. The sun isn't up yet, so I'm calling it nighttime. But nonetheless, I will finally digress. Going back to the question from earlier, today's question: are you ready to do the things that you want to do, you need to do, to be the person that you want to be? Do you truly know, at least in the moment of right now, where we stand, who we are, what you really want to pursue, what you want to see, what you want to be? What do you want to be in the future? Even in circumstances where you feel as if you aren't there, but maybe you have the potential. At the very least, you have the want, you have the desire to be. That's always the first step. The first step is to have an idea. I talked about this, I guess technically, by the time this comes out, 2 weeks from now. I talked about this last episode where, growing up and everything like that, you are constantly faced with the question of, what am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to do? What do I want to accomplish? What does life really look for me? What does life look as for me as time continues to continue? Quite honestly, there's no better words came to mind at the moment. And that question, as I mentioned in the last episode, so I guess this will somewhat be of a continuation, more of a step away from being disillusioned by the ideas of all the possibilities. But now, I guess the best way to put it is being disillusioned by even trying to narrow down my scopes, trying to really look at the hallway I've given myself, or the hallway that I've chosen to focus on, and try to figure out, well, shit, what does life really look like for me in the future? 1 year from now, 2 years, 5 years, 10, 20, anything like that. I don't want to drift through life. All right. I really don't want to drift through life, even if it's, what people will consider the quote unquote norm, which is, even if I wanted to devote my life to, picking up whatever job pays the bills and whatever I can get and whatever's near to me, which isn't a problem. We need people like that. The service is more than more than recognized and respected by me. I wish more people would realize that the people who take all the jobs around us play a crucial part into the infrastructure and the lifestyle that we are used to, especially in the Western world. But some people really just don't get that idea that as much as you want to make fun of someone working whatever job they have, if I was to just put my hand in my pocket and then just throw out a random title or a random job position, fast food worker, everyone's really quick to try to shit on someone for working at, McDonald's, Burger King, KFC. The only reason why they work there is the fact that you want their service. Everyone plays a role into life. Pay them the respect that they deserve. Your life wouldn't be the same if they weren't the people to step up to those positions out of necessity or out of want. Out of need, it doesn't matter why they're there. The fact is they're there, they deserve respect, because at the end of the day, you are asking of them to do services, paid or not, to receive what you want, paid or not, point blank, period. Everyone in your day-to-day life deserves respect, especially those who work any sort of job. So many people are so quick to say, oh, but they just pick up garbage. Oh, they're working at McDonald's. How hard is it? Some people don't want to work that job. The people who talk the most shit about them probably don't want to work that job. Nonetheless, if there was no one to fill those positions, then people would complain. All of a sudden, it isn't, oh, you're working at McDonald's, you must have no ambition. Now they're complaining, saying, well, service at McDonald's is pretty slow because there's nobody there. No one's working at McDonald's. It's as if no one wants jobs. What's going on? Oh, I guess the world's falling apart. It's such an ass backwards way to approach life, to constantly demean service that you are also demanding. Almost said I don't know how I got there, but I know how I got there. There's no problem in, choosing whatever jobs are available, choosing whatever jobs you want to do, etc., etc. As long as you have a plan, or at the very least, it feeds your mouth and the people around you. We got to navigate through life as we want, and most importantly, as we need. It is what it is, but there needs to be a plan necessarily. And as much as I am one to, I guess in the most case, say that the ends justify the means. As long as it works out, it doesn't matter. You can be annoyed and pissed off that you ate the same meal 4 days in a row. You're fed, you're eating food that night. That's all that really matters. That's kind of the mentality I have, and I kind of hold to, I guess the strongest degree. Something that I truly believe in. But at the same time, I have goals. I have things that I want in life and things I want to pursue and see how they necessarily go. And throughout the last couple years, because looking at the calendar now, it's been about 3.5 years since I've been out of formal schooling, basically. 3.5 years since I've graduated from high school. I went to college for it's real, a short stint for 2 years ago, 2021 to late 2021 to early 2022. But outside of that, I've been done with formal schooling. And being done with schooling in any capacity, graduate or not, means that life is essentially in your hands. There's no person to necessarily dictate what your daily schedule looks like. Someone to dictate what you are to complete and do on a daily basis. Now, there might be external factors and things like that. If you have a job, then your manager is going to tell you what that day looks like when you're on the clock. Once you're off the clock, that day is still yours. If you still live with your parents might tell you that you need to do X, Y, and Z. Same if you have a roommate situation, you have, contractual contractual obligations or trying not to be an ass to the people that you live with, then there might be some things here and there where you have to make time for certain obligations and duties and tasks put on top of you. But for the most part, once you're done with schooling, your days are yours. Your days are yours, your weeks are yours, your months are yours. Your life is immediately put into your hands, whether you recognize it or not. And once I got out of school, that was something that I didn't really, truly, fully understand. And as I look back on my life, I mean, why would I necessarily? I graduated out of high school at the age of 16. About a month later, after graduating, I turned 17. Spent the entirety of 17 out of school, turned 18. Once I was 18, spent 4 to 5 months in school, then dropped out. So essentially, since I turned 17, my life has been straight in my hands before I could really do too much. And now it's all kind of hitting me, and it's all been hitting me since I was done with school. But the more I truly think about it, the more responsibility that I take for the direction of my life and things like that, the more it really comes into scope. Nothing in life for me will necessarily be accomplished if I'm not the person to do it in the first place. There's nobody I can blame. There's people I can ask for help from, but there's no one to force me to do it. You know, if you're younger or if you're older and you can recall your days in school, you know, you might do terribly in school and somebody's going to yell at you and tell you, you need to do this, or, you know, X, Y, and Z will happen, and they'll still try their best to make sure that doesn't happen. If you start failing in class, if you start failing in school as a child, your parents might get on your ass. If your parents aren't on your ass, your teachers will be. If it's not your teachers, it will be your counselor. If it's not your counselor, it'll be the vice president or vice principal of the school. Everyone, it will be a sequential step where everyone is semi-involved in the process of making sure that you don't fuck this up. The moment you're out of school, you know, if you do your job wrong, you know, in employment, if you do your job wrong, somebody in the higher up position will either just straight up fire you or give you some small warnings. And it's warnings just to tell you that you're doing it wrong. It's not like they're going to help you and try to, you know, always try to accommodate you and make sure that you stay in the position. No, they won't do that. If you fuck up, it's essentially a 3-strike system that you're not even aware of. And in some positions, you might be lucky if it's even 3 strikes. They'll throw you into the bin as if you were just another person. And I mean, I've seen the system firsthand. I wasn't fired from my job, or any job for that matter, but I've seen how necessarily cutthroat the job industry can be. And as life continues, I'll see more and more of how cutthroat life is in general. I feel as if I've seen a decent amount, maybe even a good amount for someone my age and within my predicaments and things I have experienced throughout my life. But nonetheless, you don't know what you don't know. And for a lot of things in life, you kind of have to experience it to be in a position to properly talk about it. But to jump away from all that, I feel discontent. I feel discontent, or I think the best way to really get into the bulk of the matter here, because I'm finally prepared about today's topic or tonight's topic. It's written down on a sticky note, but I took time ahead of time. This episode's actually being recorded ahead of time. Praise be, it isn't the day before. You know, this plans to be uploaded. I spent time recently thinking about what I wanted to talk about tonight. And especially, I took a lot of inspiration from not only some of the conversations I've had with myself and friends in recent weeks, I really did just kind of dig deep into my soul and try to figure out, well, shit, what's been going on in my life? What have I been feeling? What have I been experiencing? Because to be honest, and I don't want to get into it too much because it definitely has a wide scope of, situations, things, and feelings, things that don't really have a place to be discussed tonight. I've been feeling quite frustrated. I've been feeling quite frustrated with a lot of things that have been going on in my day-to-day and everything like that. Between just trying to think about what should I do today to what should I do within a week's time? What should I do within a month's time? What will life look like a year from now? Trying to get a proper grasp and proper scope onto what the future looks like for me and the steps that it takes to fully get there, to fully actualize the dreams and goals that I want to actualize. It has been a part into the major stressors that's been, I guess, plaguing me lately. Because I haven't been doing the best, to be completely honest. I haven't been doing the best. And it's not to say that I ever really am. I think I try my best to make it clear in wording, maybe not necessarily directly, but I do struggle with a lot of feelings and a lot of things that go on from a day to day, and outside of, I guess, what I will call external stresses in the moment, things that do affect me, things that happen around me, but doesn't necessarily pertain to me in my own future. So, family issues, relationships implying both romantic and non-romantic. So things that are happening with my friends and people who I care about, things like that. There's a whole whirlwind going on in my head, to say the least about it. But one of the things that has definitely been on my mind and has been stressing me lately is, what am I really going to do as time goes on? And more so, is the things that I want to do and want to see for myself in the future realistic? And I think that's the part that really bothers me, because a lot of things can be realistic. You can have interests and hobbies and chase them as you see fit and as you can, and make leeway for them throughout whatever trials and tribulations, jobs, tasks, requirements are needed of you as time goes on. But for me, when I think about what am I going to do in the future, I see it more so as, whatever this major interest is, whatever that light is, all the way down there in that hallway, that tunnel, is my full goal. I'll be able to devote as much time as I can, as much time as I necessarily want to this, and that's just what it's going to be. And it's nice to have that goal and to work towards it and to feel good about it. But it's not good. I don't want to say it's not good, but it's a oddly painful feeling when some of the things that you want to chase, you're not fully sure if you can accomplish it in the way that you want it to be. In my case, when I think about things that I want to chase, the things I want to do, things I want to be devoted to as time goes on, and I'm allowed to chase this as much or as not as much as I want to, it has to be able to be financially dependable. That just has to be the honest way to put about it. And that's just how I see it. Perhaps I'm wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone else figured it out a little bit better than me. But the way that I know I want to chase these certain set of goals, I want it to be able to pay for itself and maybe even pay for itself in advance. That way I don't feel bad or I don't feel overly stressed about the things that I'm chasing. Because I've seen it, not too much, but I've seen it a little bit. I have my job right now. When I first started up this podcast, I was working two different jobs for a total of 55 hours a week, which some people do work even more than that. On top of it, I recognize that. But when I was working two jobs, and sometimes for some of the things, I just, life is a balance game. You want to keep everything in balance between work, friends, relationships, family, everything that makes life nice and sweet. You want to keep the balance. And even just some of the goals and some things I want to chase right now, even if it doesn't logically make sense to go for immediately, when I think about trying to fit it into what's going on right now, it makes me stressed. It makes me insanely stressed. On top of it, and just in general, I have an insane amount of fear I'm worried if my efforts will be worth it in the end. Or not even just the end. I'm just worried if, what if I really do devote so much time to essentially one project, one idea, and, I put my everything into it and I spend so much time for it, and it still just never wields the results that I really want to see. And I'm not really sure. I'm not fully sure how to feel about that type of thing. There's so many different ideologies and ideas and ways that I could think of to perceive, that type of notion, that idea of putting everything you have into one basket and not seeing it pay off the moment that you wanted to see it pay off. If you give yourself a deadline, say you want something to, you start to really devote yourself to one particular task, and you tell yourself, I want to be here in this, this particular type of moment. This is my goal within 2 years. And you give it everything you have for those 2 years and it doesn't hit. There's so many different ways to really perceive it. Is that really a failure? I don't really think so. If I had to really pull everything off the top of my head right now, I don't really see it as a failure because you tried. That puts you not only above most of the people in your life, because quite honestly, as rough as it sounds, a lot of people don't put that amount of effort into anything in life. You still proved it to yourself that, I really did just spend these last 2 years insanely dedicated and focused to this one idea, this one goal. I don't really want to call it a failure by any means. In the same sense, if you don't hit your goal in 2 years, I think you could just continue going. You never really know what could be changed or what will just happen if you give it a little bit more time to really see, like, oh, finally, not only did I hit what I consider my potential, I've seen even more than what I initially expected. And Lord forgive me for this example, but this will forever be something I keep referencing because it's just a field that I'm really in tune with, something that I have studied a little bit, studied both independently and through school. But a lot of artists, especially like older artists, and older, I mean time period, not actual biological age, even though that's what I'm kind of moving into. There's a lot of artists who biologically didn't really get to that point where their art was self-sufficient or hit the level of popularity and focus that they might have wanted until they were older. And some of those ages is way past what people would consider oh, you missed your point. Like, in the modern day, especially Western world modern day, people have this idea that, if you want to do something in life, people are very pessimistic. I guess that's the best way to put it. You can be a young, aspiring person with an idea, and everyone will tell you that you're stupid because, oh, you're young and you're dumb, you don't know any better. You can be in middle school, high school, maybe even college, and propose an idea, and a lot of people would tell you, oh, just, forget that idea, just go do something that's already existing. Oh, you have this prototype in mind, why don't you just go work for Microsoft instead? They're established. As if Microsoft was established 100 years ago. People created new things. People are very, very pessimistic when it comes to chasing their new ideas. On top of it, back to the main point. People just think that there's like this certain age where you just get shit done. Like, where ideas just basically flow out the barrel, and if you don't get it done by this certain age, this certain point in your life, then you're just doomed. You're just doomed to do nothing, be nothing. You're just gonna, sit in the system and do whatever you can. As if some of the things that they enjoy in their current life wasn't developed and idolized by people potentially even older than them, if not backed by people older than them who saw the potential and gave those young, aspiring people the opportunity to create the things that we need and strive off of nowadays in life. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how we have this odd system where on one hand, if you're young, you can't do anything. But at the same time, if you didn't do anything, you have to be young to do it. I don't know where it comes from, where that little entry and exit gate is, but so many people have that type of idea pushed on them. And on top, it's just pushed on them 24/7. Me personally, I remember, I gotta make sure I don't say the name because I remember his name perfectly. But I remember being in high school, sophomore year of high school, I had a teacher who told me I wasn't gonna be shit when I grew up. I wasn't gonna be shit. He didn't know how I got accepted into this prestigious school, and at my rate, I always gonna fail out. The same school that I got accepted to because it was a prestigious school, my best friend of all time, his parents got discouraged from letting him even apply to the school because a counselor in his freshman year of high school convinced his parents that he was not smart enough and he didn't have the drive and the gall to go for what he wanted, which was academic success. I don't know where that comes from. I have a plethora of friends and people I have met nowadays, even after high school, who have been told many things where they've just been told that their ideas growing up isn't worth pursuing or they're not good enough for their goals and yada, 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 this, that, third. Fuck shit nonetheless. Sorry for the language, but it makes me irritated. It makes me frustrated when I see people who are older than me, way older than me, people who I should see as elders, 5, 10, 15 plus years above me, talking about how the new generation or just people seem to not have drive or nothing seems to be new in life anymore. Yet when someone has a new idea, they're the first people to shut them down. And it's not as if people who have new ideas aren't already shutting themselves down in the first place. So the fact that someone even mentioned it to you and then you decide to shoot them in the kneecap does not progress either you, them, or society. You're just a dick. And some things need to be shut down. Let me make that clear. Sometimes people have some really bad ideas, already established ideas. It is what it is, But, some people will have these legitimate ideas and concerns that they want to dive deeper into, want to focus on. At the very least, they have something that they're actually passionate about. And people can't look past the potential innovation or passion and decide to inflict their just stay within these lines mindset onto other people, even though they're forever begging to be let out of those exact same lines. It's a hypocritical system and idea state that we live in. So, and because it's self-perpetuating, or at least from my understanding, from again the people I've talked to and the way I grew up, the way that it is perpetuating, at least a lot of people, especially younger people, but even people who are still growing up, who are still aging in this lifestyle, people always feel as if they're stuck, even if they never had the chance to move in the first place, or they never even gave themselves so much time to move in the first place. Like for myself, I'm pretty young. I'm not super young, but I'm young enough to the point where I should be able to just sit here, look at the moon, and tell myself that I can shoot way past that. Because granted, on so many different, levels and accords of life, I have 30 plus years to make anything in life necessarily boom if I want to. Why do I feel so sad and so depressed and so unmotivated by not only myself but the people around me to chase the things that I have been feeling hellbent about for years? It doesn't make sense why I have so much fear for the future, and so much fear for the things that I want to see, and so much fear for the things I want to be and chase moving forward when I'm only 20 years old. It makes no sense that I sit here and some nights I literally have to shake. I just shake and I almost cry. And some nights I do cry thinking about what am I going to do with myself, because I already feel at some point I missed my mark. Even though I'm only 20, I've had no time to shoot for my mark. In fact, I'm just finally at a point where I really can start to do the things I want to do and branch out into the fields I want to branch out to, and be the person I want to be, develop the skills I want to develop, meet the people I want to meet. The world is still so much of my oyster, and on top of it, even if I wasn't 20, 22, 25, 30, it never ends. People are always finding new ways to develop themselves, and it's constantly proven. But everyone shuts everything down until it proves itself to be an undeniable staple. And the fact that everyone always has this feeling of seeing new ideas and shutting it down until, 100,000 people say, oh, this must be it, for them to fully, and everyone in that consensus truly accept the idea, that now I have to feel worthless. That so many people have to feel worthless. For so many people to feel as if they've already missed their chance. For so many people with ideas to be afraid to jump into it because of the initial stigma people have from chasing the things that really make them happy, and chasing things that they really can chase and want to chase. So many people who are afraid of shit ignore the fact that so many companies, so many success stories are made out of people in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, some people even their 60s, and even further. Ignore all that. Because apparently it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter that through essentially every stage of life, there's been someone to prove the masses wrong. That it doesn't matter what age you necessarily are, and it doesn't matter what age you are, it doesn't matter when you necessarily decide that, someone in this little age bracket can't do this, or can't do that, or can't come up with something new, or innovate a new field. Do whatever field you can truly think of. There's probably someone of any age that can do it. with the exception of physical restraints. All right, let me back up. I'm starting to get a little, I don't want to say too heated, but I'm getting heated. Physicality is one thing. All right. Physicality is one thing. That's fairly recognized, I don't expect, some 40-year-old father, 40-year-old mother to jump into the Olympics, recognizing their country and then randomly pull out a world record. There's physical limitations in place here. Let's not act like they don't exist. But for a lot of things people want to chase, in the most part, it is purely a mental battle. It is a mental, creative, tenacious, I think that's the word, of tenacity, tenacious battle. And everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people either end up losing it or end up being forced to lose the battle because of so much negativity that kind of just flies around. It flies around. If you didn't have it already for a plethora of reasons as to why you feel as if you can't necessarily do something that you want to do and something that you want to chase, there can be so many reasons, from just, depression, clinical depression, imposter syndrome. Those are the first three things that come to mind. We're not even going to get into, negative experiences that you might have faced as a child, or whenever you brought up your idea to anyone, because any and everyone could just shut down, your dreams and your goals. And you can believe in it to be true and to be good. Some people do have a level-headed mind about it. Like, short little tangent here, and to try to lighten up the mood a little bit. I remember about a year or two ago, out of nowhere, my dad started talking about how he was having issues applying lotion to his back. And next thing you know, him and his friend are like, they go out to the bar and they have this long 1 or 2 hour conversation where they're planning about how to make a device that can, apply lotion to your back. And they were going crazy all over it. The moment he brought it up to me and he talked about it, in my head, I thought, isn't there already something that does that? That's an idea that can be shut down. Because for a moment, my dad felt like he hit sliced bread. Like, this is the next best thing since sliced bread. Some ideas have already been discovered, or some ideas might just not be good. And by the way, my dad did figure out pretty soon that someone already created that type of thing, and he did order one. And apparently it's been treating him pretty well. So if you're pretty worried about, getting lotion onto your back, you don't have that range of flexibility, or, maybe if someone else to do it for you, depends. Get one. Apparently it feels nice. I can reach all areas of my back still, at least for this moment. So I don't need one, but I've heard good recommendations. Nonetheless, some things need to be shut down or met with a healthy dose of realism. Some things are shut down out of fear. Let me back up. If you bring up an idea to somebody, it's important to understand, why is somebody shutting this idea down? Because the moment you can understand where the criticism and feedback comes from, you can essentially determine if their feedback is something worth listening to or not. Harsh or not harsh. Because I have received a good amount of feedback from people I care about and respect and don't. And from both fields, I have chosen to disregard information and feedback they have given me, because I have deemed it as not good feedback, especially in the art field. So if you're an artist or anything like that, you might have heard this term, constructive criticism. A beautiful term that essentially describes, are you tearing down what I'm building because you just want to tear it down? Or do you know exactly where my faults are? A big thing in constructive criticism is asking questions. or that's usually how it should be. You can point out things that you just personally don't like, and then someone can determine if they like that idea or not, especially in creative and independent fields. You can watch a video, decide, I don't really like how this is edited. The creator could just say, I don't really care what you're saying. And, that's what it is. But when you break it down, the more precise you can give your feedback, your criticism, that's more helpful for someone. And if someone just says they don't know, then you should just help them. I don't see why people are so negative about things, because especially when people bring up ideas to others, they're looking for support. They're looking for feedback. So some people are just so quick to just tell others that it's just not worth pursuing. But others do ask a lot of good questions. And some of the questions I've received from friends, especially with some of my dreams, aspirations, and things like that, have been pretty helpful with dealing with the fact that I am still to this day quite afraid of what my future looks like. So they'll ask me 1,001 questions. They'll ask me 1,001 questions, and I hope you do the same with any other ideas that come to mind, because that's also a good way to weed out if people are bullshitting you or not. Being honest here. But just the art of asking questions is one that truly has fallen onto deaf ears. People don't really do anymore. Someone brings up an idea, just ask them a bunch of questions, see how planned they are. You can get an idea of how much someone has truly thought something out, and through the questions, if they can't answer it, you can find the fault and maybe even actually help them, as opposed to just telling them that, oh, you got nothing, you're stupid, go away, you're not gonna do anything with it, are you? Where does that get you in life? Where do you really get in life in shutting down ideas? Someone took the time to tell you about it. The least you could do is just, very least, just tell them you don't even want to hear about it, as opposed to just, raining on their parade. The whole time I was saying this, I was trying to think of a nice idea about, what would be something that someone is interested in. That way you can learn how to ask questions about it and potentially help them figure out how to go further in life with it. And I'm thinking, my brain keeps going to these really complex models out of nowhere. So I'm going to use music. My mind is starting to fixate on one thing. Let's go with music. You have a friend who says, oh, I want to make music. All right. First thing I've heard some people immediately just say, you make music? Why? And they just start laughing, which is really weird. I'm not going to lie. Because I've seen this shit with one of my friends from high school, actually. And he still did a lot of shit with music. He did it in a different country, too. So my man definitely got it going. Shout out to my boy, Femi. I need to check in on you at some point. I really do. That really hit me. But nonetheless, I had a friend in high school. And, from the moment I met him, one of those dudes that was really rhythmically inclined. Always vibing, always listen to music, shit like that. And when I met him, he talked about making music. He was always seemed to be big into it and all that. And I'm not gonna lie, I played the bad guy for a moment, and I thought he was kind of like just pulling my tail the first time I met him, because I didn't know anything. But I did it in a way that I was like, oh really? Like, you're like you're in music. Like, oh come on, stop fucking with me. But he was like, no, I'm really into this type of thing. And he started to show me around. He started to talk to me about it. I just asked him a bunch of questions. That was the big thing, because even though it was not something I was necessarily aware of, attuned with, I had no clue about anything about making music at the time, outside of just knowing I was an avid fan of it. I was curious because especially as the more conversations that we had throughout the years, it was very clear that was a deep passion of his, which was something that I honestly envied in him, because at the time I had nothing to be that passionate about or more so, I wasn't passionate about anything. So the way that he would talk about music, and specifically, especially as time went on, he talked about producing music a lot. He talked about producing music and learning about audio engineering and all these things. So especially when we first started talking about music, and he started to show me around, and he started to show me some of the beats he made and all the things he's already done at the time, which was like back when he was 14, 15, my mind was blown. And quite honestly, even if he showed me it today, I'd still be blown. My mind would still be blown, because he has some solid things going on for him. I listened to his beats, some beats that he didn't know what to really do with, or he was afraid of selling it at times. He would just make some raps over it himself. In fact, he came into the school with an album that he produced for some friends, and he had like a song or two on it, and we used to make fun of the song. I'm not gonna lie, we used to make fun of it, because in the days, a 13, 14-year-old just kind of saying whatever it had. We laughed at he laughed at it from the moment he showed us it. He was like, "Oh, this song's so bad." We agreed. It was a nice little joke between all of us. But regardless of all the laughs and everything like that, he had a circle of people who were just constantly. We were asking questions. I used to sit down in his room, doing schoolwork, wasn't doing schoolwork, playing games, wasn't playing games, honestly, doing drugs, wasn't doing drugs. Sometimes I would just come in from a day at school, and I would just be like, "Yo, DZ, what you up to, homie?" And he'd just be like, "Shit, I'm just working on a beat right now." And I'll just throw my backpack in the corner and just ask, can I just listen?" And he would just sit there, and he would just make the beat in front of me, and he would just explain it. And every step of the way, I would ask questions, and I would try to get involved. I wanted to see his vision the way he saw it. In my head, it didn't matter necessarily if... I'm trying to think of the way to necessarily put this. It didn't matter if I necessarily believed in his vision or not. I did, but it didn't matter in the moments that if I believed truly or not. Oh, is he gonna really go through with this in life or not? I was just curious how far he was willing to take it in the first place. I wanted to see where his headspace was 24/7. And I just had curiosity, because you can spot it from a mile away when someone has an idea, but then they actually don't really see it through. They don't see it through. They don't do anything that really reinforces the idea that, this is something that should be defining for them. They kind of just say, "This is something that I want," and they just keep kind of tossing it up. Forgive me if this is the wrong usage of the word, but kind of a scapegoat when someone tries to actually ask them what they're interested in, what's their declaration for the next couple of years, if not life itself. Just be like, "Oh, I'm into this," and then they just kind of say it, and then just try to go on about it. I would ask my friend so many questions about making music and progressing through music and what he wanted to do with it. And, what's his plans for like right now? Like, are you making beats? Are you making beats right now? Are you making beats by yourself? Are you using like, pre-made kits and whatever you can find on YouTube and all these other websites and sources? Oh, have you looked into sampling? Have you been playing around with that? Have you studied what some other people have done to, make unique beats and rhythms and things like that? Ask them 1,000 questions to the point where, from my understanding, right? Because I'm not him, and we've had conversations about this before on top of it, but when we talked about music, I'm trying to think if this is applicable or not. So if anything, I might have to actually ask him, because it's been a while since we talked about this. But when we talked about music and we talked about his future, it didn't really turn into a question of if music will pay out anymore. The biggest question we had was if he even wanted to do music, which, in my opinion, is probably the better question of the two to ask, because I would like to believe, from my understanding, that he had an understanding that if he really stuck with it and did everything right and all the things that we talked about and continued to make the connections and growths that I've seen him do throughout high school alone, he could have made it work perfectly fine. To my understanding, he still kind of is. But the biggest roadblock wasn't that he was going to dedicate himself to something that might or might not work out. He just didn't know if he wanted to dedicate himself to it in the first place. He was stuck between focusing, going to school for something super medical. I don't remember if it's literally medicine, something science, something. He's super smart as a guy, even though he's a fucking goofball. Love that man. But he didn't know if he wanted to he still wanted to go to school for, whatever his degree was. So he kind of figured, I can still do the music things on the side, but he was able to just take that step back, and he did it willingly. That's the part that I really, admire and want to kind of focus on. He chose to just kind of stop, putting it in the complete front seat completely by choice. There didn't really seem to be a super large amount of fear about how would it turn out for him. Nobody really sat there and told him that it wouldn't go well and tried to fog his vision in his head with doubts about his own capabilities and wants for his own future. He just chose not to do it, or he chose not to focus on it too much. On a stellar contrast to him, though, I don't really know if I really should continue to do what I want to do, or at least I don't know if I should lean into it as much as I do already. That's one of the things that I'm afraid of. There's no better way to really put it than I'm afraid of the future. I don't know how long it takes, how long it might take, how long it will take. A lot of times I am afraid of, do I really have what it takes to make my dreams work? Am I willing to really do everything that it takes to make this work? What will people think about me? What will I think of myself? I have 1,001 questions that really I have to deal with a lot at night, to really put it bluntly. A lot of nights I have to just sit there and stare at the ceiling and just think to myself, there really is a possibility that I'm kind of just throwing myself at something that I don't know if I want to do, because I'm not taking a straightforward path anymore in life, and I haven't been for a while. This is way different than having a degree for something and then, applying for a job or even making a startup around the fact that you already have you have a certification from an institute. I have nothing. I have a high school diploma. Oh, that sounds so weird. I don't know why I haven't said that in so long. I have a high school diploma. I have nothing more than that. At this point, I am working off of what is the word for it? I'm working off of the certification I have gained from being in the work field, in which even then my hobbies and my dreams for what I want to accomplish in life have nothing to do with any job I have worked, nor any jobs I really want to work in the future. Now, if I gotta work it to feed myself and to get through life, then I will. But there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I'm not bound by sunk cost fallacy. I didn't spend, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 to get a degree. I didn't spend anything for a degree. I don't got one. I don't got a degree. I didn't put the time in. I didn't put the money in. Nothing's holding me to any ideas in life outside of personal desire. And as anxiety goes, as life is in ibs and obs, I guess I'm just afraid if my passion in my heart burns strong enough through the fog, which is the future. I think that's the best way to put it. I don't want to say terrified, because I look at the unknown, and while I am scared, I'm willing to push through it. But there's always going to be that fear of the unknown, you know? There's always going to be a moment in life where you don't really know what's in store for you. You can talk to every single person, and as long as you don't necessarily want to follow in their footsteps one for one, and even if you tried to, there'll be a moment in life where nobody could have seen it coming and nobody really knows what's going on, or you might just be afraid. There's a lot of shit in life. There's a lot of weird shit in life. That's a quick little, add on to that, even though it might be a little bit off topic here. Just remember, it can't rain forever, okay? Remember, it can't rain forever. When you have your moments of doubt, when you have these moments where life actively seems to work against you and a lot of bad shit happens, and for whatever reason it does, or whatever it is, yeah, things will happen, but it can't rain forever. If you feel as if you're at a low, that means you can really only climb higher and higher. And those ideas really help me when I think that I'm starting to hit walls in my ideas and my thoughts and my dreams. A lot of days lately where I just think, I can't do more than this. Or, I've done so much, and I just think you just get stuck in like a little rat race, a little circle where you just keep telling yourself, you can't do it. You won't do it. You can't do it. You won't do it. But those are just rainy days for me. Or they're just rainy days. They're bad thoughts. Hell, I got this far already. Why can't I get farther? Why can't I go farther, basically? What is stopping me? The only thing that's really stopping me from going further, the only thing that's really stopping me from being the person I want to be and seeing the things I want to see and being the person I want to be, is myself at the end of the day. Anxiety, the fear of the future, everything. My own fears of what the future may lie. My own fears of what the future might be stops me from actually seeing the golden side of it. I see the rain clouds already in front of me. Sometimes, some days, the rain clouds right above me, and I get stuck in the idea that these clouds will be here forever, not realizing that the further I go out, the further I walk, the further I drive, I will find a moment where it's clear skies. And when I finally hit that point, then I'll start to continuously understand that, yeah, I've been in the rain has passed. I've seen bad days, the bad days have passed. I understand what it feels like to be doubtful in my own capabilities. Those doubts will pass as well. I have to just keep telling myself to just keep pushing forward. Even if I'm afraid of, what's to come, and, what if I fuck this up? If I fucked up, first things first, W on my part. Good Lord, you did it, Hazy. Congratulations, you fucked up. But you know what? You did it. And the fact that you did what you did in the first place is something most people wouldn't dare to do. So, you did it. You might not be happy with the results, but that's all right. You won't always look back on the things that you've done with the same rose-tinted glasses you might have when you first did it. Some things will just be ugly when you look back at it. It's all right. Look at what you've done and see what you can do different. If you don't like it, you can probably point out what you did wrong with it. If you see what you've done wrong with it, hold it to your chest and, do the best you can moving forward. But it's all about that consistent growth. It's all about reassuring yourself at every single turn that you've already made it this far. Even if you just have the dream of doing something, let alone taking any step towards doing it, you're so much further than most people in life. And it might not seem that way, especially in the age of social media and everything. But I promise you, if you take one step away from the internet, if you take one step away from the people you see regularly in life, and just try your best to remove yourself from those things, take it at face value, as honest it might sound. As honest it might sound, if you have done it in the first place, if you have taken any step towards your dream, you are further than majority of people you will ever meet in life, especially the people who shut down your dreams. Because the people who tell you to stay within one box is someone who has never dared to explore out of it in their entire life. And the idea and the notion of being stuck in that same box, the fear to step out of it, the fear to explore and guide yourself to newer and newer, higher and higher heights, leads to that feeling of being discontent.